I'm Janet, the plant powered peddler, and I have with me Christine Cook. Is it Mania or
Mania.
Mania? And she came to all of this through being vegan. So I want to hear all about being vegan. And she and I just graduated from the Main Street Vegan Academy course, and it was wonderful. And it was her influence that I found out about it and decided to do it. So Christine, you want to introduce yourself? And she wrote Vegan Minded, and
I
it's a wonderful book. Do you have it? I
do.
lent it out.
I
Oh, good.
do. Can you see that?
Yes, we can. Looks great. Here,
Okay.
wait a second. Let me spotlight you. Whoop. Always have to. There we go. Oh, yes.
There we go.
Becoming a steward for animals, people, and the planet. So
And I can
tell
put a
us,
link to the book in the chat so people can see it. This is a link to my website, but
and tell us how you even got started, with veganism and, start at the beginning and give us your story.
well, you should read the first chapter. No, I'm just
I
kidding.
did.
I know you did. I know.
You don't have to
Hi,
give it all away.
I know. Hi, everyone. Um, it's nice to be here tonight. I wrote Vegan Minded, published it last year in October of 2023. And like Janet said, we met when I was living in Bremerton, and she was so supportive and continues to be supportive. So it's been a really great friendship. Um, I became vegan in 2005, but my story started much earlier in 1985 when I was living in Evansville, Indiana, where I grew up. And we received a newsletter from PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, and it kind of blew my mind. I became a vegetarian after seeing pictures of cows on factory farms, monkeys in labs and in cages with electrodes attached to their heads, and rabbits with just stuff oozing out of their eyes from animal testing. And it shocked me. I mean, I didn't, I wasn't a very worldly person. So this was all just really shocking to me. And I became vegetarian. I didn't know any vegetarians, and I wasn't a great vegetarian, but I made effort. And I think one of my focuses at the time was animal testing because, and I still feel this way, that that's a really great entry point for people if they want to protect animals, is to buy products that are not tested on animals and then of course don't have animal ingredients. Um, but I kept moving forward, even though ate seafood, sea animals, quite a bit. I really liked fish sandwiches and shrimp. I'm not, that's just how it was. But I always in the back of my head, I really wanted to be vegan. I knew that that newsletter was asking me to be vegan, and I couldn't disagree with it. I just didn't have the support system that I needed to make that change, especially living in Indiana. Um, but fast forward 20 years, I was living in Chicago I moved there in 1995, and I was living there, and I started was meeting people, volunteering with people that were going vegan, like two friends of mine, and I was like, oh, okay, well, they're doing it now. I'm not going to have any excuse not to do it. And so I made a plan and I went vegan in 2005, and I've never looked back. It's really one of the best decisions I've ever made. And I think that every vegan who's committed says that, because it's just a really rewarding way to live. It's very meaningful to me, and it just is in alignment with my values. I think one of the things, and I'm going to mention this because of the yoga class I'm going to tell you all about, but I started practicing yoga in 1994, 6, I think. And I think that kind of set a foundation for me to begin to um, look at the world differently for sure. And the first, there's 8 limbs of yoga, and the first limb in the philosophy is ahimsa, which is non-harming. And so just starting to study yoga and practice it, I think that really set a solid foundation for me to actually then make the decision to be vegan. Um, and then my journey, I talk about my journey in the book a lot. That's what it is. The book is 20 personal essays about my journey from 1985 up until the present day. And um, it was a winding road. When I went, I know you all are plant-based and eating for health. And in the beginning, when I became vegan, I just was doing it for animals. I was just, as long as it didn't have an animal product in, I would eat it. I was not picky. But then over time, I started to study nutrition, reading all the books. The book that really, my first nu vegan nutrition book that I read that resonated with me and really impacted my life was Eat to Live by Dr. Furman. That he just had so many stories in that book about how he's treated patients with a vegan diet, a healthy vegan diet. He wasn't really, we weren't using really the term plant-based back then when he wrote that book. But a healthy vegan diet. Um, and I just was really, it just resonated. Like I wanted to be healthy. So I started eating healthier, and really making that an important part of my life. And then I met my husband in 2010, and he's really an environmentalist, and started to connect the dots for me with a vegan diet. I mean, what we eat and how we live, and how that impacts the planet, the environment. And you know, it is a vegan diet is one of the best. It's one of the top solutions that's readily available for climate change. And so that has just been something that I've been really interested, because I do think that is one of the biggest challenges for our generation. And that's kind of where I'm at now. I will always be vegan for the animals. I want to be healthy, so I eat healthy, maybe not as healthy as you all eat all the time, but I do a pretty good job. And then I want to take care of the planet, because if the planet's not, if humans can't live on the planet's going to survive, but we won't. So those are my 3 things. Uh, I've always thought that there was 3 pillars of veganism: animals, human health, and the environment. But writing this book, I really believe there's 4 pillars: animals, human health, the environment, and community. I think community is really critical to for most people to sustain eating this way, whether you're a plant, you practice plant-based diet, or you're vegan and it extends out to like the clothes you wear and the products you buy beyond food. So community is really important. So what Janet's doing by having these monthly potlucks is really, I just think it's really important for her community. And it's inspired me. I'm trying to find a location so that I can do that in Madison on a monthly basis to build the community here. So it's kind of my story. And what, Jana, you want to have some questions? I was gonna,
Yes.
if you want me to read a little bit, I want to read a bit about humane education, how this book came to be, but I don't have to do that right now.
Okay, well, I've got a bunch of questions, but
Okay.
I also would like to have you do a little bit of a reading. That'd be very cool.
Okay.
I was just curious. So when did you read Joe Furman? How long ago was that?
It would have been about 2007, 2008.
Yeah.
So it was
It's a
Uh,
process. This whole thing is just sort
it,
of that's
it,
awakening.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and I keep evolving. I mean, you could, I think, I mean, that's the way we should be, is
yeah,
evolving and always learning and growing. So that's kind
yeah.
of been my journey.
So what about Bill? Does he what did he feel about with was he vegan when you met him?
No, so he was a vegetarian. Bill's my husband.
Yeah.
Um, he was a vegetarian since the early 80s, for health and for the environment. And so he had been vegetarian for a long time when we met. And when I moved in with him, he knew that I wasn't going to cook anything that wasn't vegan, and our kitchen became vegan. And he was fine with that. And but we'd go out maybe to a farmer's market. He might get a muffin or something that was not vegan. And just over time, then eventually one day he said he's vegan. So
Mm-hmm.
it just was a process. I never asked him to be vegan. I would never recommend anybody ask anybody to be vegan, because it's really a journey that someone has to take on their own. They have to take agency over it and decide for themselves that this is what they're going to do. Otherwise, it just feels too pressured and they're not committed. And so finding their own entry point, whether it's for the animals, health, or the environment, whatever it is.
It's a huge shift
Yeah,
to make in a world that's built to make us fat, sick, and unhealthy.
to
So
use,
that's
and we use animals for everything
mm,
in this culture. And so it is a really big change. And I do have a chapter in my book called Stages of Change, because I looked back at my own life, my journey, and realized that the stages of change, I went through every one of them, and it really resonated. It's called the trans theoretical model of change. And um, I saw every step of the way, how long it took me. I mean, it took me a long time to become vegan, but once I did, I was committed. And it's really because I had the mindset. That's where the important piece is being able to change your mind and give yourself the space to commit.
hmm
Because if you're just kind of do it on a whim, it's not going to last.
hmm So how did you do the research for your book?
Oh, for my book,
Yeah,
um, it's really just they were personal essays. And I wrote them. So I wrote the book during a master's program that I decided to do during COVID. So um, I was living in California, March 2020. We were shelter in place, everything was shutting down. And I had been kind of researching some graduate programs because I just needed like something. I was feeling like I needed some intellectual stimulation.
hmm
And I had heard of this program called through the Institute for Humane Education, a master's in humane education, and I uh, I thought about it, and I'd wanted to do it years and years ago, but I just really wasn't sure. But then when COVID hit, and I knew we were going to be home for a while, but then I'm going to do it, and so I applied like right away, and I was accepted immediately. Just because of my background, I was a really good fit for the program. And so the book, a lot of the research was through classes. So
cool.
we had classes in animal protection, environmental ethics, human rights, culture and change. Those were some of the core classes. And
hmm
then we had writing for social change. So I did research during those. A lot of it, since they're personal essays, um, the research just kind of came about like organically, because I'd be writing an essay wanting to include some kind of educational component to the essay. I didn't want it to just be a story I was telling about my own life. I wanted to have it backed up with facts on why I felt the way I did about something.
hmm
So it was a more organic process, I think, for the research piece.
That it was very well done. I just really enjoyed the book.
Thank you.
Yeah. So any challenges while you wrote it? Any pushback or?
The graduate school program, the faculty for the
Mhm.
Institute for Humane Education, they are the kindest and
Oh,
most nurturing people I have. If every school was like that, we would just be in such a better place in this country.
wow.
So they were just really supportive and kind. I think where there was some uh disconnect for me is I really wanted to write a memoir. And they
Hmm.
were totally fine with that. Do what you need to do, whatever.
Hmm.
And then in my writing cohort, especially in the class I'm writing for social change, they wanted me, all my peers wanted me to write a how to be vegan book because none of them were vegan and they were curious. And I had said, well, I started to write a how to be vegan book years ago, but I just felt like it's been done. I didn't really have anything new to say. You should buy this book instead. They kind of really pushed me and pushed me. And so I had to have a conversation with my advisor and one of my teachers about it because I said, they want something that's not what I'm doing. So how do I get them to understand what I want to write? And so it ended up not being a memoir, but being personal essays. And it was a little bit different component, but
Mhm.
I just it was weird. In that program, I learned to really have boundaries
Hmm.
because you get a lot of feedback on your writing, which is
Wow.
really great. But you are the author. I was the author, so I get to decide what feedback I'm going to take and what I think, no, that's not, doesn't resonate for me. So it was a growing process for me as a writer. Um,
Hmm.
and I loved every single minute of
That's so cool.
it.
I love how much you enjoy doing it because so many people say, if they had to look at it one more time, like with the editing, they were just gonna go cross-eyed.
I I loved it. And yeah, I want to write another book because I
Yeah.
thought the process was just so fun. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Do you think it'd be the same without your community, without your group?
I think that I'm nervous about that,
Yeah.
um, because I would like to have a writing group. But I have a draft of something the how-to book, actually, I have a draft of it that I
Hmm.
think I am going to actually publish because it was pretty much, I mean, I had a first draft, and so I feel like even though it's already been done, I had my own unique spin on things. And
Yes.
and I actually the thing about this book that I'm working on is that one of the reasons why I didn't want to publish it back then, like this was uh more than this is like 15 years ago.
Hmm.
And I was really taking the approach of you don't have to go all in all at once. And at the time, there was really this mentality that, it is all or nothing. You cannot be vegan if you don't do it all at once and you're not really doing any good. And I didn't really agree with that. And it was really hard for me to think about that. But I thought, well, I'm going to write a book and give you like 20 steps and you can do it all at once. But you could just turn to step 10 and start there. You can just do whatever you want. And that's what I decided. And that approach feels much more approachable now, and I think more people will be accepting of it now. But 15 years ago, the atmosphere in the vegan movement was a lot different.
And it might not have helped the vegan movement, because they were such crusaders. But I think, anybody that says it's already been done when we're only 1% of the
I
population is
know.
like, come on. There's such an opening. I mean, if anything, this whole movement has so many possibilities
Yeah,
because it's just so, it's so underutilized so far,
yeah,
which opens up the whole world for us. We can do anything we want to
Right.
introduce it to people. And that's why it's so important to me. That's why I so value you and Bill coming at it from an environmental
Hmm.
um, direction, and he wasn't vegan in the beginning there, and how we're all kind of finding that all of it's important. We're all finding it together and
Hmm.
discovering, how much we care about all of it. And it's really exciting. And I so love how we're closing up that abyss, and we're reaching across to each other and saying, come on, let's, we'll just do what we can.
Hmm.
And because I even heard that with whole food people that, well, vegans, they're junk food eaters. It's like, yeah, but they don't eat animals, I mean,
Hmm.
we've got to start wherever we are. And I think you're right that it's just becoming a lot more like that as we all see that none of us are 100% perfect, with whatever way we're doing things. So, gosh,
Exactly.
yeah.
I was giving a talk on Saturday, and one of the people at the talk was basically said what you were saying is that, you know, kind of being judgy about junk food vegans, and that, she was a really healthy vegan. And that's that's fantastic that she is, and she's young and she's eating healthy. I mean, she's got a really good foundation for herself. But I just pointed out to her that for me, the way I look at it is, and I was very kind about it, but that there's a continuum on for vegans. There's vegans who will eat whatever is put in front of it, doesn't matter as long as there's no animal products. And then there's vegans who are really healthy and want to eat whole foods,
Hmm.
plant-based
Hmm.
food that is healthy, gives them energy, and that's wonderful too. And
Yeah.
then there's a lot of us, and I would consider myself in the middle somewhere
Yep. On the continuum. Yeah.
on the continuum. And the thing is all of us are not eating animals.
That's
And
right.
and all of us are helping the environment
And
because
whole food people, whole food plant-based are also on that same continuum. They're just
exactly.
they're just not acknowledging it, but I mean, you can't hide us that aren't eating healthy. I mean, some of us you can, but for the most part with us women, it shows when we're
Yeah.
not eating healthy. And so to point our fingers at a vegan that's eating Oreos, it's like, come on, what are you eating on the weekends? Or,
And
yeah,
who knows, that person who is eating Oreos may pick up a book called Eat to Live or
yep,
some other book
yeah.
and change how they eat. And so
Mhm.
I celebrate it all. I really want to be inclusive in that way. And,
Yeah.
um, as long, like, I want people to stop eating animals. It's good. That's better for the animals, obviously. And then it's also better for the planet.
Well,
The,
and what one of us could watch Eating You Alive, or
yeah.
something where, like when I watched it, I could not harm another animal.
Hmm.
And another question I want to ask you is, how do you find out about all uh, the other ways animals are being abused and used for makeup and everything actually?
So I mean, there's obviously a lot of good websites out there, but I will say, as controversial as the organization is, PETA has a wonderful website that will
Ah,
tell you every single way animals are used.
so is that PETA.com or
PETA.org, probably. I'm not,
.org?
I can look it up.
Oh, okay. Maybe
Let
put it
me,
in the chat
yeah.
because that's a tough one. It's just hidden everywhere. I mean, we do look at ingredients because the nature of our beast, but boy, sometimes that it's so well hidden, like sugar's well hidden, and they give it other names.
Yeah. So it's PETA.org. Yeah, you're right.
Mhm.
Um, Yeah, it will just tell you, it gives you so much information on all the ways animals are used. And um there are if you do a search, there are websites that will list out animal ingredients so that you can
Mm,
look at the real fine details of some things that, it's not clear what it is because it's
mhm.
some real long name. And um, so that's one, if you just do a Google search, you can find it that way. I don't have
Fortunately, they're
one.
starting to use that vegan label,
Mm-hmm.
which is really nice because, like with my conditioner and my shampoo and
Mm-hmm.
everything, even my vitamin B12, I didn't realize, or D. D3
D.
is largely animal, although I guess now pure encapsulation has a D3 that's
Yeah.
plant-based. But wow,
Yeah.
even, even the things that we take as supplements, being a vegan, crazy. So for somebody new to veganism, I mean, how do you approach them, or do you just, what do you do?
Someone that's new to them
Yeah, like how do
is
you?
well, I I want to give them a big hug. Just welcoming them into the movement and really just supporting them and asking if they have questions and making it not judgmental. Some
Yeah,
people will say they're vegan and then they're doing something that really isn't, but they don't know that yet. They haven't
yeah,
connected the dots. So it's just being kind to people and helping them understand, where, like what a vegan is. And I have a chapter, it's very short, it's like 2 pages in my book that goes through all the things that are not vegan. Like defines what vegan is.
mhm,
Because some people, they really think it's just about the food, and then it's a lot more than that.
mhm.
But just really being kind and, welcoming them into being vegan and not being judgy. That is the biggest thing, is just not being judgmental. And however anybody wants to be vegan, be accepting of that.
Yeah, you are a very kind person, Christine. So any personal transformations for yourself or with that you've experienced that others have come on board and you know, like with us, we always say, oh gosh, like I lost 89 pounds and huge differences. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm not I do eat, like, I would say I eat 80% healthy. I mean,
yeah,
I eat things, that
but other things.
you're not gonna eat. But but
Yeah.
but what I learned for me, so when I first became vegan, this was in 2005, I was overweight. And so at the time, I had no idea how else to lose weight. So I went to Weight Watchers and I just counted points. That's what you did. And it's dumb, but it worked. I lost 30 pounds and I've kept it up. But what I really found for me in being vegan, because, you know, is that if I just focus mostly on healthy foods, I don't have to be perfect, that my weight is really stable.
Hmm.
Um, and I know when I'm like eating too much because I feel it, but if that's really for me has been kind of a really nice thing for me, is that I don't really worry about what I eat or how much, because it just kind of, I'm pretty much the same.
Hmm.
Um, but in terms of just like, I think the transformation for me is just how I have evolved over the years. And just I look back at this teenager in Evansville, Indiana. It's a small city, southern part of the state, not progressive at all. My
Hmm.
dad was a hunter, um, an avid hunter, lots of guns. Uh, that he
Hmm.
would rather go hunting than have Thanksgiving dinner with his family. That it was his obsession, his passion.
Yeah.
And how I got to be here is amazing. And I learned, looking back, I really wish that in 1985, I think it was 17, that I had like I was more confident in myself and I would have just done it no matter what because I knew it was right. Um, but it took me 20 years, but that was a lesson I've learned. When there's something that really feels right for me, it
Hmm.
doesn't matter what anyone else is saying. Um, just go forward with what I know to be right for me. And that's been a lesson for me. And I'm still learning it. But I think when I look back over the whole journey, that was something like if anyone's going to learn anything from me on that is that listen to yourself. You know what's
Hmm.
right for you.
Mona says, Weight Watchers taught me how to work my potato chips into my day. And next thing I knew, the bag was empty. Did Weight
That's
Watchers
great.
4 times in my life.
That's awesome.
Oh, I also did Weight Watchers and became a lifetime member 3 different times.
I have lifetime keys from them.
Oh my
Keys and
gosh.
charms and bracelets, whatever. I looked at those, but I kept eating.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just not sustainable weighing and measuring. Now, points, at least you don't have to weigh and measure, but
Yeah.
um, I just like the lower calorie density foods because
Mhm.
and the ability to maintain has just been a game changer to be,
Mhm.
5 years out, going on 5 years out, and still, if anything, I'm still, taking off something pound here and there. Um, it's really amazing, just incredible. Well, we're always curious about what you eat in a day because of our where we come from.
Mhm.
Can you share with us what you eat in a day?
Well,
Just in
what did I have for breakfast today?
or in general, what do you eat for
Yeah.
breakfast?
Okay, so usually have a savory breakfast. Um, I really I really like Just Egg, and I know you all probably don't eat it, but it's like a liquid, like you can make
Mm-hmm.
omelets with it. What I like about it is that I can add veggies to it and it has some protein in it. I really like to have protein in my breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm a 3 meal a day person. I don't like to snack. Um, so I'll have that with some toast. But I will say that I am going to try, I've been wanting, it's on my list. I've made these before, but some chickpea omelets is using chickpea
Mm-hmm.
flour to make the
Mm-hmm.
omelet. So I am intending to switch to that so I don't have to buy
Mm-hmm.
the stuff that in the store.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like to have something savory. I don't really like sweet breakfast. Then lunch is usually a salad, and we put a lot of stuff on our salads. And then we have protein. We'll have maybe a combination of tofu and chickpeas, or I eat a lot of chickpeas, I
They're
will
good.
say. And then, so we'll have a big salad. Um, right now, like soup is sounding better to me for lunch because it's getting colder.
Hmm.
So, I like to have a soup, and I just like to put greens in pretty much everything. And I do think my whole obsession with greens is from Dr. Furman because he's
Hmm.
really big on greens.
Yeah.
But even if I'm having a veggie burger, I'm gonna have greens on it. I'm gonna have some salad greens on it just to make me think it's better for me than it probably is.
Yeah.
But and then for dinner, we make, since we were having salads, that we'd have soup for dinner
Hmm.
or some kind of stir fry, like veggies with tofu, or I've been making pasta, red sauce with veggies, and then I'll use TVP in there or something. I think so. What I'm going through right now, and Bill, is that we're really thinking about protein.
Hmm.
Um, and I think there's a lot out. I'm not an expert on this at all, but we've been
Hmm.
reading how as you get older, you need more protein.
Hmm.
And so I've never paid any attention to protein in my life. Like
Hmm.
as a vegan, I never paid attention to how much I got. And so he's really focused on getting more protein in his diet, and that is really like stressing me out a lot,
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out how we can get it in a healthy way.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's really easy to have like a veggie burger that has 20 grams, but that's not what we don't want to eat that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's for me, that's something that I like to have some veggie burgers in the freezer as a backup when we don't have time to cook or something. But so I'm really trying to figure out how we can have healthy meals with a lot of protein in like to meet his needs. Because I don't feel like I need as much as he does. But
Do
so
you use a protein counter? Like my Fitness Pal or
no, I don't. He's
oh.
been paying attention to what he
Oh.
does. He just calculates it by hand, but
Mm-hmm.
um I just make sure that I have some protein. Like that's really for me. Like if my salad, if it has beans and tofu on it, and I do like chickpeas a lot, but we'll do other beans sometimes or
Mm-hmm.
edamame or something. But I do like to have protein at every meal, but I like to start excuse me, I like to start my day with protein for sure.
Yeah, quinoa has a lot of protein in it, and
Mhm.
all the plants have protein in them.
Mhm. And we'll
So,
put like a grain in the salad to,
mhm,
make it more
mhm,
substantial so it is meal. And I do notice a difference for my lunch if I eat a salad versus, soup or, maybe I have a sandwich sometimes, but I notice a difference. When I
mhm,
eat a big salad with grains and veggies and beans and tofu, I am full until dinner.
mhm,
I just that is really the best lunch for me.
mhm. Yeah, a lot of people say lunch should be the main meal. So,
Mhm.
and I find that too. If I eat a nice substantial lunch, then dinner's light, and that's
Mhm.
nice for going to bed then later that evening.
Yeah.
So, yeah, exercise. I wanted to ask you about exercise. You would,
So I practice yoga. I teach yoga.
mm-hmm,
I walk my dog. It's not really, it's sometimes it's not really walking so much as dawdling, but
uh-huh.
because he likes to sniff a lot. But I walk twice a day with him, yoga, and then I've been doing weight training at the Y.
Oh, cool.
Um, so that's always on my mind is adding more movement into my life because I know I always feel better. So my goal for, I want to say next year is to start swimming again because I used to swim
Mm-hmm.
and it feels really good. But just, I just trying to move more. I think for me with movement, when I do my best is when I'm training for something.
Yes.
And so I'm
Mm-hmm.
starting to think I want to train for something next year. It'll probably be a long walk. So my dog walks won't be sufficient. Like I'll have to go on my own on long walks. I think I've done one, two, three marathon walks
Wow.
in the past 25 years. So that's that requires a lot of training and it just feels really good. And I love them. And walking, I can do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm up to 9.5 miles a day now.
That's
Uh,
great.
I'm getting ready for, just like you said, I've got a walking in UK in May, the Southwest Coastal Path.
Mm,
And so the longest day I think is 16 miles.
that's
So I'm just thought I'm going to start now because I'm old. I want to make sure that I'm in good shape and I can enjoy myself on the trip. John Jew is asking, does your husband measure his protein? Usually not a problem. Rarely do we hear of protein deficiency so much in our veggies, the best protein.
um, he does pay attention to his protein. I don't know how carefully he's measuring it, but
I mean,
so
how does he know, or I mean, are you protein deficient? Have you had it tested?
no, we're not
Oh,
protein deficient.
oh,
It's more that we've been reading, well, I should say he's been reading about that the standard amount of protein that people need changes when you get to be over 60.
Yeah,
And
I've heard
so,
that too.
he's just, thinking about and that's just to maintain muscle.
Hmm.
It's increased the amount of protein you need. And so
Does he feel like he's losing muscle?
I think he does. And
Ah,
he started weight training also.
good for
But
him. I think
um
that's going to make the big difference is doing some resistance training because he is tiny.
yeah, he's really thin.
Yeah,
Um yeah, so but to build muscle you need that protein also. So
sure, sure.
that's
I mean,
just
if you
yeah,
couldn't build it, then there would be an indicator there
yeah,
that you're not getting the protein. But like I work out every other day, and I've got muscular arms.
yeah.
And right now, I'm just eating Goldner's, fruit and vegetables, mostly vegetables, and avocado, and I've got plenty of muscles. So they say a lot of things,
Hmm.
and you know how they'll change it every 3 to 5 years. So it's good to just have some checks on your own self so you can see now. Wait a minute, like even with the B12, well, everybody take B12. Well, some people have thousands of B12 in them, and then I got low in B12. So and so I thought, oh, get the blood work done, see
Hmm.
where I'm low and see what I need. So because once I realized I was low, then I became more consistent taking my B12. So it's just, you've been
No,
in
and I
this.
appreciate that reminder because I really am not worried about protein for myself,
Yeah,
just that I'm in charge of like making dinner.
yeah. And Stephen actually he makes his own meals now because he eats totally different than I do.
Mm,
And he needs much more calorie dense food than I do. So, it's a big bowl of oatmeal and fruit in the morning, and then he eats tofu and rice and squash. And what all does he eat at lunch? It's really fun watching him and smelling his food because my smell has become so acute since I've gone raw. And I just love to smell it. I don't need to eat it, but I mean, yesterday he cooked up just a huge container of veggies, and oh, they smell so good when they're cooking. And then he makes soup. He puts
mm,
all these things. He's got soy curls. Soy curls,
mhm,
that's a good one. He rehydrates them, and then
mhm.
he'll make a bowl of soup. He'll take the veggies that he cooked. He'll put the soy curls in them, and he'll freeze the excess. But he'll use a lot of it within the week.
Yeah.
And he has a whole thing of potatoes that he cooks, and he just batch cooks a whole bunch of stuff, and then he'll make bowls of it for his dinner.
Yeah, that's great. I like to batch cook also.
Yeah, and he walks and works out in the yard, and so he wants his muscle too. At 77, he wants to stay active, and I think it's great, and
Yeah,
I think it's great that he cooks.
it is great.
And I was doing it for him, but he took it over. He's just enjoying it. He's he's got the time, and I don't know. He just even I used to cook his tofu for him because I didn't mind marinating it, and then now he does it. He does everything on his own. So that's one thing you could encourage him to do is a little bit of his own.
Exact- He's
So
in
he
he's in charge of his breakfast and lunch.
uh-huh,
Yeah.
uh-huh.
Yeah. So, and I don't mind the dinner. I'm just trying to figure it out. So,
Yeah, yeah. Well, get his input because like with Steven, same thing. He started with all he did was his breakfast, then he did breakfast and lunch. Now he's doing dinners. So it
yeah.
is kind of another progressive thing that I think he's just getting into it. He likes what he makes, and uh, I like then being able to just focus more on what I'm doing because we're doing such different things.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. We should all be happy and doing what we want, you
Exactly.
know? Yeah. So go ahead so before too much time gets away from us. Good Lord, it's 4 to 5. You need to tell, you're going to read a little bit for us. Does anybody have any questions for
Yeah.
Christine?
See if anyone has questions before.
Yeah, you can just unmute and say something, or you can put your hand up if you feel you need to.
I was just going to make a comment that Brenda Davis, who's quite a well-known nutritionist, she does encourage more protein as we age. So I just thought there's another proponent of being mindful of that.
I've heard it too, and I just think a sweeping statement is kind of it maybe some people as they age need it and some people don't. I don't know. I mean, that is kind of a new thing that's come out. Um, and and I've heard it too. So
Well, I'll
Yes.
just say, as far as that goes, that it's not that we need more protein, but our bodies, as we get older, don't absorb it the same way. So if you eat an additional 10% more as you get older versus what the recommended amount is, then you really are still supposedly in that window. And that's something, speaking of Brenda Davis, that I learned from her. And so it's interesting to think about. I appreciate you being on, and thank you for sharing. So I don't really have a question. I just wanted to throw that in there and just say thank you.
Oh, you're
No,
welcome.
thanks, Jennifer. Yeah, that's true. It's how our bodies process it, or the amount. I mean, but if you can't process it, you can't process it. So how are you supposed to process it? So anyway,
Yeah,
it's just that.
and oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, you just made me think, Janet. Also, as we tend to get older, we don't chew as efficiently. So we
Mhm.
don't break down the food as efficiently. So once it's in our stomachs, then there aren't any teeth there. And so it doesn't have the opportunity to be absorbed the same way if it's not broken down, really finely. And so chewing really good and maybe upping it a little bit just to maintain is what I've learned. And yeah, I've actually on a whole food plant-based diet and lifestyle. I have tested low in protein, and so they just told me just up your beans and legumes and lentils a little bit, and I did it more consistently because I wasn't consistent, and it went right back up and I was fine. So it is important. I think I agree with you guys about, checking your blood and like just figuring out you, because like Janet was saying and everybody's saying, we're all different. And so we just have to kind of, just gauge no matter what way we're eating, just make sure that our body is getting what it needs, I think.
Yeah, definitely. John Jew, you had a question?
I do. Christine, this has been fabulous. I really enjoying, the conversation here. You stated you had three. I have a question for you. You stated the three pillars, and then you added a fourth one on the animals, human health, environmental, and then you added community. That's kind of how I look at it too, as I go on my journey here of being a vegan and what I'm doing. And I'm seeing the next step has been to my church. I see a big spiritual movement going on, and I see the church as a pillar of a community. I'm just kind of curious to know, how does that reflect in your life? What's happening there?
So, well, I am a spiritual person. I don't go to church. I feel like my yoga practice is my spiritual practice. Um, I don't have community around that besides going to class. And so it's a little, well, I actually work at a yoga studio also, so I do have some community. And so I'm around a lot of like-minded people, but most yogis aren't vegan. And so that was, that's been kind of a struggle for me, I think. Because to me, it just matches up, like it's perfect.
Yeah.
But, so I am a spiritual person, and I will say I have started to think about going to a unity church or a universal Unitarian, I think, um, for the community, especially because I don't live, I mean, I moved here recently and I don't have the community that I used to have. So I've been really trying to think about how I can build community. And I think the spiritual piece of that is really important. also.
Yeah, and if I could just add on to that, the Unity Church where I go to, one of the 10 commandments, of course, is thou shalt not kill. And so
Mm.
to me, that is such a key point in any spiritual community church wise, and
Mhm.
so that I just love everything you're saying. Thank you.
Mhm.
Oh, that's great, John, you. And then Connie. You're still muted, Connie.
I do that often. Hi, Christine, I love what you shared. And what came to mind when you were speaking of protein, Furman has a podcast, several, on protein in aging on
Mm.
YouTube. So if you just go to YouTube, you'll get his expert advice on it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll check that out.
Yeah, because it's really simple, but it's so good to be clear yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Janet, where
Yeah.
do you get organic soy curls?
It's just the one fella that sells them.
Oh,
And I actually called them to find out if they were raw, and they're not. But it starts with a B. What's the name of your
Baxter's,
Butlers, and they're not
Butlers.
organic.
they're not organic.
Ah,
Oh, boy, that puts a damper on things.
yeah.
I'll look at the health food store. Thank you both.
Thanks
Yeah,
for
let
the
us know,
question.
Connie.
Good question.
Yeah,
I've
maybe
been
I'll call them
stocking
and ask them.
away eating those things, and I ordered en masse a lot of them. Oh, gosh.
He's a really nice guy. We all called and asked him to do some organic ones. I bet you he would.
Wow.
That's
I'll
a
do
really
it.
good idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's non-GMO. Sometimes they have them non-GMO, but they don't have them organic listed.
I just Googled
How
it.
come?
I just
Yeah.
Googled organic ones, and Anthony's has an organic one.
Oh, cool. Anthony's hopped on, Connie,
Mm-hmm.
with Amazon. Check it out.
You
Yeah.
mean in the form of a
Soy curl.
Yeah. Yeah.
really? I'm
We
That's
don't show it in Canada. I looked Amazon, but thank you.
It must be a new thing, so maybe it'll take him a while. Do you get Anthony's at all?
I'm not familiar with them.
Oh, okay. They're kind of big here for, they supply a lot of bags of stuff.
These are called
Hmm.
organic textured vegetable protein. So I guess it's not soy,
Oh, yeah,
but they
that might,
are gluten free though, as well as organic.
well, it's just soybean. So yeah, they
Yeah.
would be gluten free. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the TVP is what it's called, textured vegetable protein, TVP. It's very similar to the soy curls. It's just the shape is different. The
Yeah.
Yeah.
TVP is more like a crumble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's got other stuff in it. It's not just soybean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
Well,
put Butler link in the chat in case somebody wanted to see what it is.
uh-huh.
So if you want to see what it
Thanks.
is, that at least you can see.
This says it's just organic soy flour. So
Oh,
soy flour. It's not really a product like the
it's not a
soy
bean.
curls.
Yeah,
it's
I
not-
mean, when you do the soy curls, it's just like it's got the texture of chicken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it smells really good when he's rehydrating. But not like chicken, which is great, it just smells good.
But Butler's does have a new one that's non-GMO, but I
Oh,
don't,
well, that
it's
would
not
be good.
organic.
Yeah. I know it's hard to get soybeans that are organic, so
Mhm.
yeah. I was going to ask you, Christine, about, Karen and if you'd share how you met. You've met a few vegans there or plant-based people.
I have. So I moved to Madison in April, and Janet connected me to a couple of women that she met at a retreat in Illinois. You
In Chicago. Yeah.
Chicago, JP's
Yeah.
retreat. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we've gotten together a few times, which has been really so nice for me it's like I'm starting to have this vegan community. and they're really nice women. I've met Karen and Joanne a couple of times, and then I've met some of the other people that know from JP's retreat also. We just actually had lunch like 2 weeks ago.
That's so cool. And some other, like Jennifer knows Joanne, and Jennifer was at JP's retreat too.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
it
Hi,
just,
Jen.
it's so fun that we are building connections even.
I know. I love it. I'm so grateful for you for introducing me to them, because it's been so nice, and I'm having lunch with them in a couple weeks, and this is a group they met on a retreat. And so I just feel I think it's very sweet that they're including me.
It's such an immediate connection that we're
Yeah.
all on, thriving on plants.
Yeah.
I just love it. So tell us about yoga, because we've only got a few minutes.
Yeah. So this was one of the reasons Janet invited me on. I'm a yoga teacher, and right now I teach one class a week at the Y, and that's really by choice because I really wanted to get back to my own practice. And but I'm in a advanced training, and I have a service project to do. So I decided that for my project, I'm going to teach a yoga for vegans class online on Zoom. Um, you know, I love vegans, and I just thought, you know what, I'm just gonna be really specialized here. And I mean, you don't have to consider yourself vegan, you can be plant-based, but honestly, the title is going to be called Yoga for Vegans, and in parentheses, or future vegans, because I think
Oh, very good.
it's really inclusive. Anyone's really welcome, but I just really wanted vegans to come together and practice yoga. There is not a lot of vegans in the yoga community, and I really wish there were more. So it'll be on Sunday mornings on Zoom, and it's going to be 10 Central. So, okay, you figure out the time zone.
Nine Pacific. Yeah, we're from all over.
Yeah, so
So-
like 8 Pacific, 9 Mountain, 11 Eastern. And then if you're in another country, you'll have to look it up.
Canada.
But what I'll do when I have the registration set up, so it's going to be free, and it's going to start December 8th and go through at least the end of January. I might go into the first couple weeks of February. And then I'm gonna see, but it'll be about an 8 or 9 week series. And when I have all the information, I'm gonna send it to Janet, and Janet can send it to all of you. And I would love to see anyone who wants to join. I think it'll be 60 minutes. It might go over a few, but really the style of yoga I teach is, you could say it's slow, mindful flow. It's not necessarily that it's gentle, but it is kind of gentle. I don't really, this isn't going to be a sweaty class. This is going to be one where at the end you feel really stretched out and calm. I focus a lot on the breath, because that really helps our nervous system. And I think in the world we're living in today, that's really the most important thing to me, is that we can help calm ourselves down. And you leave feeling good because you stretched your body, because that feels so good. And then there might be a few little challenging poses in there somewhere, depends on how I'm feeling that day. But my goal is that everyone leaves class feeling better than when they came. So it's
It
really,
sounds wonderful.
yeah, it's really fun to teach that way. Feel good yoga. That's what I like to call it.
I'm in.
So Janet will have the information for you, and Janet, I'll send that to you as soon as I have it all ready.
Okay, sounds good.